Hello and welcome to the 19th season of Realish Racing. We're going to South America this time for the Hyper Brazilian Tourismo Mestres, a homage to the famous season 4 of HBTM. Here I am once again with Tom Brooks. How you doing, Tom?
Yeah, thanks very much, Nick. Good to be here. Good to be back in action for Realish Racing again. As you can see, we've got 8 rounds of the Hyper Brazilian Tourismo Mestres today. 2 races per round as well over the course of 22 laps. 26 entries lining up on the grid. And nice, sunny, clear conditions for our drivers here today. So, do you know, Nick, I think this is going to be a bit of a good one, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the track map is very deceiving. You think, oh, this is a very simple track with 10 turns, but very tight and very fast. So definitely a test for the best of our racing drivers.
Yeah, it certainly is. You can see the pole lap then. This is the man who qualified on pole position, Lee Harrison from the Offenders team, and here he comes down the start-finish straight. Interestingly, of course, this circuit is actually anti-clockwise, despite starting with a right-hand bend, and this right-hand bend in particular is a very tight hairpin, so keep an eye out for any dramas in turn 1 on the opening lap in particular through there. So this is Lee Harrison then coming out of the first corner, over to the right-hand side of the track before he flicks it left into a pretty much 90-degree left-hander, and then it's a very short blast up to the next long left-hander, and it's crucial to get a really good run through here because any mistake that you make, you're going to carry that all the way into the next left-hander, which is, of course, is the crucial left before you go onto the back straight. So again, any mistake you carry here, you're going to run with that all the way down that straight. And Nick, we know how important it is to get your lines right around here.
Definitely, as I said, it's a very tight track, and you can see it there from the onboard. Very, very little room for error. And you have to pick your braking points very carefully, and you have to carry the speed through the corners as much as you can. Here we see Lee Harrison going for the very long left. Sorry, it's a right-hander. No, it's a left-hander. What am I on about? So there we go. I'm looking at the track map upside down. But here's probably the most important part of the lap here. You've got a very tight entry there, and you've got to decide whether you want to carry speed through the corners or whether you want to set yourself up for a very good exit onto the main straight.
Yeah, a couple of clumsy corners ready to finish the lap before you flick it left over to the right-hand side of the track, aim towards the start-finish line, and that completes a lap then here for round 1. So that is how the pole lap looks from Lee Harrison's perspective. You can see the drivers now on their formation lap ready to get this race underway. 26 drivers lining up on the grid as well, and that is going to be a very tantalising prospect over the course of these races then. So Lee Harrison lines up on pole position with Austin Ogonowski, the Canadian, alongside him. Row 2 is headed by the Dutchman Franklin Steggink with James Price Harper, the second of the Offenders drivers, inside the top 4. Row 3, the Briton Mike Bell for Priority 1 Motorsport with April Dillon, the Swede, alongside. Craig Patterson in Priority 1 with Tom Bellingham for the Independables down on row number 4. Row 5, Arunas Linkevicius for Tropico Motorsports with Bjorn Golder alongside. Row 6 is Sam Harani for the Defenders with Alex Odell, the Englishman, alongside him. 7th row of the grid is Luke Mason with Chris Eagle for company. Then comes row 8, James Lambert in the Tropico Motorsports car with Theo van der Brink alongside him. As we get towards the back of the grid, it gets really, really tight indeed. You can see Dan Thorne down in 17th with Rob Coby, the Canadian, alongside. Row 10, Niall O'Connell with Campbell Wallace, the Scotsman, down in P20 for the Kobutsu Racing team. Neil Heatley heads row 11 with Pete Walker alongside. Row 12, Craig Woolard and Matt Davis for the Howler Racing team. And then the final row of the grid, that is comprised of Charlie Marriott for the Two-Tone Racing team and William Walker in the second of the Kobutsu cars. So then, on the left-hand side of your picture is Lee Harrison. Alongside him on the front row is Austin Ogonowski. Keep an eye out for Franklin Steggink and James Price Harper as well on that second row of the grid. A standing start for our drivers as we get ready to get the Hyper Brazilian Tourismo Mestres underway then here. Wait for the red lights to come on. When they go out, we will be racing here then. Good start from Lee Harrison. Not a bad one from Austin Ogonowski. Keep an eye out though for Franklin Steggink, who's got an absolute barnstormer. There's contact in the midfield as they come down towards the first corner. Keep an eye out as well for the number 95. That's Mike Bell. He's on the grass. On the inside, there's contact as well, and all sorts of argy-bargy in the mid-pack. They're not going to all make it through turn 1. Somebody's off the circuit. One of the Tropico Motorsports cars definitely involved in some strife at that first corner, but that was very action-packed at turn 1 there, Nick.
Yeah, we're going forward wide for the lead there, and it looked like they almost got away with it, but Constantine effect probably there in the midfield, but Lee Harrison has managed to avoid all of it, starting from pole. Dream start really, except that it's got very close company from second place as well, locking up already. Obviously the tyres and brakes will still be cold, and actually we're seeing Steggink going for the lead here almost. It's going to be a drag race, and I think Steggink's got it.
Nicely done there from Franklin Stegging. So the Dutchman takes over at the front of the field. Then Lee Harrison, the pole sitter, demoted down into second place. That's the long back straight that we were talking about. But you can see Lee Harrison is not going to take this lying down. He's going to try and find his way past at the next opportunity. They're about to go left. He's got the inside line for there, but he's not got the track position to be able to find his way back through. And this, of course, is where Nick was saying they're all the concertina up coming through these corners. And you can see there quite a pronounced gap already from about 7th or 8th position backwards. But, well, an interesting opening lap there then. So Franklin Stegging leads the way as they come towards the end of the first lap. And I think pretty much everybody, aside from those caught up in the first corner dramas, has managed to make it through unscathed.
Yeah, and it looks like the big winner there was Dan Thorne. It looks like he's a lot further up from the position started, almost very close to his teammate Tom Bellamy. Of course, it's a bit of a meme now that the two independent drivers somehow will, no matter where they start, find each other and have a good race-long battle. Oh, a bit of carbon fibre there going, and a bit of a wiggle there from April Dillon as she's desperately trying to fight off and save a position from Charlie Merritt. Meanwhile, Stegging is still in the lead, but Lee Harrison is by no means giving this up.
So on the helicopter shot we come then down this back straight, and let's see whether Lee Harrison is going to be able to find his way past. He, of course, has got the advantage of the slipstream. He's having the hole punched in the air in front of him by Franklin Stegging, and you can see how pronounced that is. They come into the braking zone. Not an opportunity for them then to find his way through at the moment, but certainly looking very close indeed as they come through that left-hander. Keep an eye out in the background there as well, because it looks like that's the number 95 of Mike Bell, and he has got some company behind him in the form of Austin Ogonowski. Austin, of course, started on that front row of the grid, is now sitting in 4th place in this race, but he's certainly looking very aggressive, and he's going to want to try and find his way past Mike Bell before too long, I'd imagine, here, Nick.
Yeah, Dan Thorne looks like he's left his full beams on there, but there really is no room for error here. As Austin Ogonowski has a look inside Mike Bell, but he defends very successfully. It might compromise him on there on the exit, but I think it's with the tightness of this track, it's done enough there to defend his place. But yeah, if you make a mistake and go off, you're going to be losing a lot of places to this. And you can see there how close we are from 4th to 1st. And of course, don't forget, our defending champion is right behind this, and he's going to want to get in the action very soon.
Yeah, certainly is. Well, let's see what is going to happen then as they come down in towards the left-hander. Then on board here we are with Austin Ogonowski. Then just in front of him is Mike Bell, the number 95. Hit behind him then is the number 1. Of course, the reigning champion of James Price Harper. Let's see whether he is going to be able to get himself involved in the party there as well. So these drivers looking very close. Austin Ogonowski, as I put my teeth back in, looking the closest of them all and looking to try and make a move down the inside of Bell into the left-hander at the end of the back straight. Side by side they come. On the inside we go, and Ogonowski then is ahead, and he's now through into 3rd place. Nice textbook move there, Nick.
Yeah, splitting racing, and all credit there to Mike Bell as well. Very respectful, gave him the space, saw the move was coming, decided, yep, I'm going to live to fight another day. These are touring cars, and they say rubbing is racing, but no need for contact. He's just going to patiently wait his time as Lee Harrison still can't really find a way up back into the lead. But it looks like actually maybe he's lost maybe a little tenth on that lap.
Yeah, very easy to do so. You can see there in the background the number 771. That's the second of the cars that the motorsport cars, and you can see it's all getting a bit feisty down that first turn, isn't it?
Yeah, nice little dive bomb there as James Price Harper comes into 4th position there. He's seeing maybe the leader's starting to get away. He's decided he's not going to wait for them, and he's made his move early. So almost like, very much like a MotoGP race, even though we probably couldn't get further away from that discipline of motor racing. And Stegging, actually, yeah, it does look like he's making more time up. So Lee Harrison really has to make a move past Austin Ogonowski if he wants to rejoin the battle for the lead.
Well, the two offenders drivers who started on the first 2 rows of the grid now sitting in 3rd and 4th place, with Harrison ahead of Price Harper. As you can see, number 7 ahead of number 1. Harrison is going to try and get himself back ahead then of Ogonowski. Down into the left-hander we go, side by side. Up the inside goes Harrison, and it looks like he got himself through then into 2nd place. Nice move there from the British driver, making hay while the sun shines. And is Price Harper going to get involved in that scrap there as well? Keep an eye out in the background. That is the number 771. That's Craig Patterson, the Priority Motorsports driver. In fact, sorry, apologies, that's not Craig Patterson, rather that's his teammate. That's Mike Bell in the number 95, who's all over the rear wing of Price Harper as they come through the left-handed kink and onto the start-finish straight. Bit of dust being kicked up there in the background, but a crucial move there for Lee Harrison. He needed to get that done pretty quickly so he can keep in touch with the leader.
Yeah, we see April Dillon struggling there. We might have seen some carbon fibre come off her car earlier, so maybe she's struggling a bit with damage. And we see Mike Bell there, seeing if he can get past James Price Harper. He's really not giving up, really, in its early stages. It's so close to call. Who could come away with it. Stegging maybe just sort of conserving his race there. He knows that everyone behind him is fighting for places, so why bother ruining your tyres and burning off too much fuel when everyone else around is doing the job for him?
Well, it is a really long race, this, isn't it? As you say, Nick, 22 laps. We're only on lap 5 now out of this one, so drivers are going to have to conserve their tyres, conserve their fuel, and I suppose that's an advantage for everybody else who's behind Franklin Stegging and has the slipstream. They can use the slipstream to try and save a bit of fuel. They can short shift on the straights. They can use the extra speed that they will have as a result of that. As you can see, Runas Linkovic is there losing a position to the number 9 who finds their way past then. So position changing a little bit further down the order. That was Sam Harani moving up ahead now into P7. So nice move there from Sam. Linkovic is not holding too much, but you can see there that Linkovic is trying to send it down the inside late on the brakes, through into the left-hander and back a position into P7 then for the Tropico Motorsports driver. But Nick, as I was saying there, tyres and fuel, it's going to be crucial in this race, and well, sitting in the slipstream is a good opportunity to try and save your energy towards the end. Yeah,
definitely. With the amount of straights on this circuit, slipstreaming and fuel saving is going to be a bit... Oh, Lee Harrison's going to have a little look there. Oh, very late on the brake, and he's got back into second position from Austin Ogonowski. So, as we were saying, we're trying to save fuel and tyres, but Lee Harrison decided that he doesn't want to get too far away from the leader. Otherwise, he's going to have too much to do. And it's going number 68 of Lee Mason, gone very wide there. Almost collected by Tom Benjamin with the Independables. But very tight, twisty circuit. You might have not very much room for area, but also there's not much room to capitalise on it.
Just riding on board there with Dan Thorne of the Independables, who was really close to Luke Mason. Dan Thorne down in 15th position, started in 17th, so despite that good start that Nick mentioned on the opening lap, has now dropped back down into 15th position. So here we are then. Meanwhile, as you can see, James Price Harper is all over the back of Austin Ogonowski like a bad rash. Side by side they come into the left-hander at the end of the back straight. Price Harper up the inside. Is he able to make the move stick? Because Ogonowski has got great traction and great drive around the outside and still manages to retain track position, but Price Harper's going to think about sending it down the inside into the left-hander. The thing is, though, he's got to be really careful here, Nick, because keep an eye out who's in his mirrors. It's number 95, Mike Bell, with his teammate Craig Patterson behind. If he gets too involved in this squabble, he's going to have to keep a real eye on his rear view to make sure that they don't find their way through into this battle. Well,
he already has to, as you've seen. He's made the attempt and has compromised his way through this final little section. And so we saw Mike Bell right on his rear wing. Let's see if he gets any attempt there. It's Alex Odell sitting there currently in 12th position, leading a little mini train of cars himself with the number 28 right behind him. Dan Thorne still seems to have his 4 beams on, so I don't know if he's trying to intimidate his opposition there. As Eagle tries to go down the inside of Alex Odell and puts him off actually a little bit, and I think maybe he might be able to capitalise on it. Luke Mason is looking to pick up any pieces of anything that goes wrong here, but Alex Odell actually does manage to maintain his momentum and line. And as I was saying, that Luke Mason is going down the inside of Eagle, and I think he's got the position.
Oh, and Alex Odell's a bit wide in the forefront of your shot there as well. So Mason there, as you said, Nick, capitalising very nicely indeed. Here comes Dan Thorne, who's going to try and get involved in the battle as well. He's all over the back of Chris Eagle, as you said there as well. He's got his full beams on, so that's going to be a distraction in the rear view there. Meanwhile, here is Price Harper, who has now lost a position to Mike Bell. So Bell in the Priority 1 Motorsport car is now ahead, and Price Harper demoted down into 5th position. So it just goes to show that all the while you're trying to attack the driver in front, you've got to keep an eye on what's going on behind you.
Definitely, and you really got to make the move stick and go for it if there is one there. If you make any half-hearted attempt, it's going to ruin your line for this last section of corners and really rob your momentum on the main straight. We're not sure exactly where that move happened, but obviously Mike Bell was able to come there. And now Eagle's on Odell as well, and I think Luke Mason's going to try and follow him as well. So Alex Odell in danger of losing 2 places here, where he has the inside line and there's 2 right-handers, so he might just be able to fly it off. But Luke Mason's doing a really good job and somehow rides it all the way around the outside and takes the position from Odell.
Phenomenal driving there from Luke Mason. The Two-Tone Racing driver's now ahead and fancies to go with Chris Eagle. Eagle going defensive down the start-finish straight. Mason going for the later move around the outside. Late on the brakes he goes. He's deep into the corner though. That's going to compromise him and it allows Odell to come back through. So a simple mistake there for Mason has now allowed the number 23 of Alex Odell to, well, nearly find his way back past, but somehow Mason held track position on the outside of turn 1. Meanwhile, here we go with Craig Patterson, who's now trying to send a move on James Price Harper for 5th position as well. On board we ride with the number 771, so it doesn't really matter where you look up and down the field. There's lots of action taking place up and down here, and all the while Franklin Stegging still has a half-second advantage over Lee Harrison, then the race leader. So down the back straight we go and in towards the left-hander.
Lee Harrison there just having a little look, so he's just reminding him that, yeah, you're not going to run away with this. And there was this three-way battle still going on there, almost little contact. Then Alex Odell has somehow managed to get by both Eagle and Mason again, so this one is really, this could have lost all race. And Alex Odell now back past Luke Mason and Eagle. Danforth still keeping pace on them, so maybe they lose some time when really one of them could streak away from this. But yeah, this is racing, even if it's not even for a single point. You see that, oh, Luke Mason even has a little touch of the rear bump for Alex Odell and has a little power slide out the corner. So this is how much it means to them, even though it's only for 12th place. Although 12th place will become pole position for race 2, so there is still something to fight for here.
Yeah, of course, that reverse grid is going to make things very interesting indeed for these drivers then. So here we are then still riding on board as this battle continues. Lap 9 out of 22 we are on here of the Hyper Brazilian Tourismo Mestres. Then into that left-hander. You can see now James Price Harper in the middle of a Priority 1 motorsport sandwich then. Is he going to be able to find his way through? No, because Patterson is going to send it down the inside of him at the end of the back straight. Side by side they come. Patterson has superior grip, superior pace, and now has 5th position. So nicely done there for him, but is Price Harper going to try and retaliate? Bit of a squeeze onto the inside there. Price Harper has to take evasive action there on the brakes. Very late move there from Patterson, moving over onto the brakes, not really giving Price Harper too much room to sort things out, but it certainly looks like James is struggling here, Nick, and what do you think that could be down to at this stage?
Maybe he's overcooked some of his tyres trying to make some of those early moves. It seems he isn't really happy with the balance of the car. It seems everyone else has settled in, the temperatures are up nicely, the brakes are working as intended. Oh, we've got someone go off there, the 101. Oh, is he just moving aside to be lapped? Yeah, so that's
William Walker at the Kai Butsu
William
team.
Walker, that's right, yeah. So obviously we're coming up lap 10 already. It shows you the pace of the front runners, that we're coming to lap runners. And now Stegging, this is the most he's had to fight for the lead since he took it. Lee Harrison is right up with him now, and it's going to have a little look. Is he going to have a little go? He is. He's going to send it up the inside, and retaking the lead there is Lee Harrison.
Nicely done there for Lee Harrison. So pole position down into 4th place and now back up into the race lead. But Stegging's not going to take it lying down. He's got good traction and good drive. They come side by side. Stegging retains the lead then. But is he going to be able to stop it into the next corner? I think he is, because he moves back over onto the racing line. Is able to take his normal line through there, and it doesn't compromise him in any way, shape or form. So Harrison had the lead very briefly. And again, they're squabbling. And look who's behind. Austin Ogonowski, as Stegging getting really close out onto the dirt on the outside of the circuit there. So a two-way scrap after just a couple of corners now becomes a near three-way scrap for the race lead. This is getting very exciting indeed as they come through into the final series of corners. Ooh. Look at that as well. Here we go with Price Harper. He's up the inside of Mike Bell then.
Oh, Patterson.
Oh, and Patterson goes round then, so spins it round. Dear, oh dear, Craig Patterson. That is a big shame there for the Priority 1 motorsports car. Here comes Lee Harrison, though, meanwhile, down the inside for the race lead at the first corner. And he's through, but he's late on the brakes. There's a bit of contact between them. Carbon fibre shards going everywhere. But Harrison is still back into the race lead and is now ahead of the Dutchman, Franklin Stegging.
Yeah, Lee Harrison probably conscious that his teammate's going to be the biggest threat to the championship. Never too early to think about championship, I would say. So he knows that he really has to capitalise on any kind of low performance from James Price Harper, who's coming in 5th position. So he makes the move on Stegging, and who's got Ogonowski now for company. So maybe Lee Harrison was buying this time, seeing what Stegging could do, as he seems to be struggling. Goes wide there, and I think Ogonowski's going to take 2nd place from him, unless Stegging can power away. You see, we saw that before. He's got really good drive out the corners, but it might not be enough. We see that Stegging, I think it's going to have to go around the outside for the next corner, but certainly brave on the brakes. So Ogonowski's got him covered as Lee Harrison has a bit of puff of smoke to complicate things for the two drivers following him. But it seems that Ogonowski, indeed, using that slightly bent corner, has maintained the inside line and is now up into 2nd.
Yeah, it seems like it really upset Stegging's rhythm there, and well, that now means that he is now down into 3rd position. So work to be done here then as we come to the halfway stage. Are now at the halfway stage in this race. All the meanwhile, now Lee Harrison's got some clear track in front of him. Look at the gap that he's beginning to build out. It's already up to several tenths of a second. And if he can keep that rate of progress towards the end of this race, he will be in a very happy position indeed. Speaking of somebody who's going to be very happy, is Tom Bellingham, qualified in 8th position, is now up into P6 at the halfway stage. Here's Bryce Harper, though, meanwhile, trying to find his way past Mike Bell. This is the battle for P5 as it still continues on between the Priority 1 Motorsport and the Offenders drivers then. As you can see, somebody there getting a little bit sideways coming out of the final corner. That was first corner rather. That was Sam Harani getting it all at sea, and there's William Walker, the Kaibutsu driver, just getting a little bit in the way as they find their way through the long left-hander. Not really much room there for Walker to be able to do too much, but it has just given Mike Bell a touch of breathing space for the time being.
Yeah, not much either, really. As you say, it's very tight there, going through the first few corners. Lots of really on the ragged edges, you can see lots of dust being kicked up, much more than in the opening turn-up. But yeah, going back to James White, I would say, it looks like some drivers, April Dillon as well, seem to be quite unhappy with the balance now that the temperatures are coming across, so maybe gone for the wrong setup, maybe a bit too high in the tyre pressures there. And it seems that this battle between Odell, Mason and Eagle has not died down at all. They seem not seen any action. Oh, Hirani, what a dive bomb there. I don't know if he's going to maintain the position there. No, he's been forced out wide, and I think it was a bit of a cheeky move there, and he has to take to the grass to take avoiding action. And he's ended up really losing quite a lot of time out there. Here's back to Tom Bellingham now, 6th place. Tom Bellingham, a good driver, he's very good at latching on to drivers in front of him. So maybe you might say he's not the fastest driver in the world, but when he can find his way to the back of a battle, he can hang with them, and you never know, Tom Bellingham could even get a podium here.
You can see Bellingham there, just how late he was on the brakes into that first corner, how much ground he made up on Bryce Harper going through there. So certainly seems to have gotten the rhythm all sorted out, whilst Bryce Harper is back trying to find some of that rhythm that he's lost in the mid stages. And Bryce Harper really does seem to be struggling with his setup or something. He doesn't look comfortable behind the wheel of that car at all. Of course, we had a Super Pole qualifying session prior to this race, and Bryce Harper qualifying in 4th place, but it's almost like he's driving a different car at this stage because he's all at sea. Look at how twitchy it looks coming out of those slower speed corners, and that's where he really seems to be struggling here, Nick, and that is where it's costing him very dear.
Yeah, I suspected maybe a tyre pressure issue. Oh, he's going to have a little cheeky look around the outside, but Mike Bell is far too clever for that. But actually, he's been forced to make a mistake, go a little bit wide, and this is the bank corner. And Bryce Harper has forced himself back into 4th position. Mike Bell, cut across him, didn't he? Very cheeky kind of move, and now Mike Bell's going to have to watch out because they're coming through the difficult section here where he can lose a lot of momentum, and maybe even Tom Bellingham could have a go onto the start-finish straight. Just
in the background there is Arunas Linkevicius for the Tropico Motorsports team. Keep an eye out for him because he's not been too bad at all in this race. Qualified in P9, is now in P7. Here we are then with Mike Bell coming down the start-finish straight in towards that first corner once again. Is he going to have a look at Bryce Harper? That would be a bit of a day late and a dollar short, and thankfully he thinks better of it going through that first turn. And as they come onto the short blast into the next left-hander which follows, you can see Lee Harrison now sits with a half-second advantage over Austin Ogonowski. More dust being kicked up there meanwhile by Mike Bell. So he's getting a bit raggedy then as we come in towards lap 14 then, and I wonder whether he is just trying to push that a little bit too hard and ultimately it's costing him. Speaking of pushing too hard, Sam Harani you can just see there in the number 9 right behind the number 10, that is Bjorn Golder just in front of him. And Harani, well, speaking of being ragged, he's been all over the place over the last couple of laps.
Yeah, Sam Harani is one of those drivers, he can just turn up where he's going to out-drag here Bjorn Golder into 8th position, but he's one of those drivers who can turn up and absolutely decimate the field. Oh, Arunas Linkevicius goes straight off, so it sounds like he's completely missed his brake in there, and you could hear the tyres squealing as he was desperately trying to slow down for the apex, but a million miles away from it in the end, and see how many positions he's lost.
He's going to need a ticket to get back in from there, Nick. I don't know where he was thinking he was going.
I know, yeah, you'll have to show me.
Let's have a look then.
His VIP pass.
So late on the brakes, snatched. He must have just snatched one of the brakes going into there, just a little bit too late, bit too much outside load on the outside front tyre, and maybe that's what cost him. And either way, straight on and loses a few positions as a result.
Yeah, no, well, back to the fight for the lead here. Ogonowski is all over the back of Lee Harrison there. Steggings not too far behind. He's like, remember me, I was leading the race and I've got every intention of taking back that number 1 position.
He's right up his gearbox now, isn't he, Austin Ogonowski? And, well, Harrison, he did pull out a half-second advantage, but the Canadian driver in P2 with the number 2 on his car is looking like the driver who is potentially got the most pace at this stage in the race. Let's see whether he is going to be able to find his way through on Lee Harrison coming down this long straight. Then he's got the advantage of the slipstream. Harrison in front, of course, punching that hole in the air, unlike Ogonowski, who has got the advantage of that slipstream, has got the straight line speed but doesn't have an opportunity to find his way past. They are coming up by the looks of things on a bit of lap traffic in front, which could play into the hands of these two drivers here as well. But Harrison then looking like he's a little bit on the back foot at the moment, as more smoke being puffed up in the forefront of your shot there. So again, as they get ever closer towards the back markers, this could prove to be a pretty pivotal point in this race. Let's see what happens then as we come through these final series of corners. Nick, what do you think is going to be going through the mind of Lee Harrison here? He knows he's got the pace to fight at the front, but he's got Austin Ogonowski right behind him. Do you think he's going to try and perhaps just sit behind Ogonowski if he finds his way past, or do you think he'll immediately try and get back through into the lead?
I think Lee Harrison's the kind of driver who likes to lead from the front. He's been from, well, how else would you lead but from the front? But he definitely likes to lead. He sat back for quite a few laps at the beginning of the race, finding his rhythm, finding his pace, but he now knows where his groove is. He's going to want to make every attempt to try and build that gap up. But at the moment, his main concern is driving intelligently through these back markers, and also Austin Ogonowski is going to have a little cheeky move around the outside, but Lee Harrison's a bit too clever for that. I think from the looks of Lee Harrison, he's trying to make sure that he doesn't get to the lap traffic in exactly the wrong place and gift an opportunity to Ogonowski.
That's Pete Walker, they're just going past there on the right hand side of your picture, so able to find their way through. Flash of the lights there for Franklin Stegging, the number 72, who is in third position then, and it looks like he's going to be able to find his way past Pete Walker there. Nice, sensible driving, just allowing those drivers to get through at the most opportune part of the lap, being down that back straight. So a bit of breathing room then here for Lee Harrison, but again coming up onto the walls, the back of some lap traffic, and that is not going to be helping their cause there in any way, shape or form. They're just a bit able, but that's not going to help Austin Ogonowski, and he's going to lose out there by the looks of things. Lose a few more car lengths. Franklin Stegging also caught in strife, and that's the thing, as you said, Nick, it's an incredibly narrow track this, and if you get caught behind a back marker, well, the back marker's not doing anything wrong by sitting on that line in that corner. They're doing their best to try and find their way to get out. Yeah,
exactly. It's the left-right section of the track, so nothing really that the back marker could have done there. Pete Walker there, as we saw, was very respectful before, but just sometimes when the leaders come round to you, as we saw with Charlie Marriott, I think it was, you just can't get out of the way. You're always going to be in somebody's way, so you just gotta have to make sure you don't cause them too much trouble. But in the end, it has ended up in Lee Harrison's favour, and he's now a second ahead.
Nicely done there for Lee Harrison, just getting themselves past the back marker of Matt Davis. Matt qualified down in 24th place, hasn't made too much of an impression then on this race as we ride on board here then with Franklin Stegging. That's the view that the Dutchman has in front of him of Austin Ogonowski, and at the moment he has got a front row seat for the battle for the race lead, which has dampened down somewhat. Speaking of dampening down, this hasn't dampened down at all. Here is Craig Patterson then getting himself ahead of Arunas Linkevicius into the left-hander. Nicely done there. So Arunas moving down into P10, Patterson up into P9. Here we go then with Sam Harani versus Bjorn Golder. This is for P6. Harani now ahead of the German driver, and in the background there, of course, that's the number 95 of Mike Bell. Bell, of course, who was so fast in the opening stages of this race, but seems to have faded off somewhat as we come in towards the closing element of it. A little bit wide there, meanwhile, for Sam Harani coming through the penultimate corner. That's going to compromise his run down this start-finish straight. Is it going to allow an opportunity for Golder, or maybe even Mike Bell, to find their way past? Yellow flag is out, as you can see at the top of your screen. Here comes Bell down the inside of Golder at the first corner. Side by side they come. Bell is on the inside, and Bell is through into 7th place there. Nicely done for the Priority 1 Motorsport driver. A textbook move of how to do it into the first turn.
Yeah, both Priority 1 Motorsport drivers were involved in the earlier conversation for the lead. As you say, have faded a bit. We saw the spin from Craig Patterson, which put him a long way behind, but now it seems like they're finding their feet again as Mike Bell's trying to defend it. Oh god, going around the back marker, they're trying to defend his position. That was brave stuff, but it shows you just how much every single place matters to these drivers.
Yeah, Charlie Marriott there getting again caught up in the wrong place at the wrong time. Here we are then riding on board with Bjorn Golder as we come down this straight. So just under 4 laps now remaining then here at the end of race 1. Into the left hand, you can see the drivers locking out. Those tyres are going to be well past their best. They're going to feel like chewing gum underneath them now as they just try to keep themselves on the straight and narrow and hold on, and going wide like that into corners such as Sam Harani did into that left-hander is not the way you want to be doing things, and Mike Bell certainly seems to be the quicker of the drivers at the moment, and let's see whether he is going to find a way through. Maybe another textbook move down the inside at the first corner. A stronger exit this time out of the final turn though for Sam Harani, just buys him a bit of time, gives him a bit of breathing room, and doesn't allow Mike Bell to close up too much in the slipstream. Meanwhile, Austin Ogonowski versus Lee Harrison still continues on for the race lead. Harrison still in front ahead of the Canadian driver, and then look at the gap all the way back to 4th place. That's a good few seconds there as these drivers then coming in towards the closing stages. So Nick, I want to ask you, what's going through the mind of Austin Ogonowski here at the moment? Do you think he's just going to be biding his time to find his way through? Because the thing is, he may only get 1 or 2 shots at finding his way into that race lead, and he doesn't want to pounce too soon, does he?
No, and he certainly knows that Lee Harrison's the kind of driver where if you take the position away from him, he's going to be looking to take it away straight back. So maybe it's just biding his time. He thinks he's got a little bit in his back pocket that he can make a kind of last attempt, although as you say, he's running out of laps. So if there is going to be any kind of late move for the lead, he's going to have to make it soon, and it actually looks like Lee Harrison might be extending that gap very slightly, so Austin Ogonowski is going to have to get a move on.
Let's see what is going to happen then. Coming through the long left-hander then, here is Mike Bell. And Bell, of course, the driver who's been really on a charge, and look how close he was of Sam Harani onto the brakes then coming into that left-hander. Here's Arunas Linkevicius in P8, and he has got some company in the form of the 314. That's April Dillon, who is now behind. Is Dillon going to be able to find her way through? Let's see as she comes through the final series of corners. Not quite able to find her way past at the moment then. Down in towards that first corner, we still see Mike Bell, but we see a mistake there from Harani locking up on the brakes. I thought he was going to run a bit deeper than that into that corner.
Not quite struggling, but he's definitely living life on the ragged edge. Sam Harani, quite an aggressive kind of driving style, and as I said, can sometimes turn up and completely obliterate the field, and other times doesn't look like he's got quite the pace of his N team's fellow teammates. So he's trying to fight off Mike Bell here, as you say, is a late charger, of course, involved in the early conversation for the lead. So he's not going to give up. He wants to get any place he can, and he might even have a little go up to Tom Bellingham if he can get past Harani very soon.
On board we ride then with Mike Bell, under 2 laps now remaining then. This is his view in front of him as he tries to find his way through, coming into the long left-hander. Oh, a little bit late on the brakes there, and snatching it there for Sam Harani as he comes through that long left-hander. Is that going to allow an opportunity for Bell to find his way past? Harani knows that, goes defensive, cuts over very late indeed. Didn't really give Bell a lot of room there. How on earth the Priority 1 Motorsport driver was able to slow that down as Bjorn Golder makes a hash of the final series of corners and spins off the circuit. That allows Craig Patterson to come through there as well. So a simple mistake there, costing the German driver very dear indeed.
Yeah, that little final section there, you can lose all your lap time or gain a lot of positions. As you see, Golder just making a little mistake as the tyres sort of giving up all they have really now in the final 2 laps of the race. But it seems that Lee Harrison is the one driver who has got that completely under control. Although Austin Ogonowski isn't going to give up without fighting with James Bryce Harper, has gone off the road there. It kind of just sums up his race. He hasn't lost any positions, but he's relegated, and resigned to being off the podium.
Yeah, I didn't realise these touring cars were particularly good at rallycross, but Bryce Harper doing a good job of indicating that they do have a second purpose. Meanwhile, here you can see Craig Patterson now with Bjorn Golder, who of course went off on that last lap, is now really going to be trying to find his way through, because we know that Golder has got a pace advantage over Craig Patterson. Here though is the battle for 6th place with Harani versus Bell. Side by side they come down the end of the back straight. Harani on the inside, Bell goes through on the outside then, but not able to find his way past for 6th position. This is getting very tasty indeed. This is where Harani chopped the nose off of Bell last time around, but no such luck there for Bell to find his way through at the moment. But I wonder if he's just going to be thinking about doing something onto the final lap perhaps.
Yeah, it seems like he's content to follow Sam Harani through these final corners and size him up, and Harani has realised that, and he's desperate. His tyres are giving all they've got there, but is it going to be enough as Mike Bell is tucked up right behind the rear wing? Harani goes semi-defensive, he reads once, he reads twice. Mike Bell somehow finds a tiny piece of tarmac. Harani goes way too deep, but Mike Bell almost follows him, and finally Sam Harani's tyres say, that's enough, sorry mate, you're going to have to give the position up.
Phenomenal driving. Here's Lee Harrison then, meanwhile, who has got the lead quite commandingly now over Austin Ogonowski. That is the biggest gap that we've seen all race, and what a race it has been for Harrison as well. Started, of course, on pole position, let's not forget, got duffed up in the early stages of it, had to really claw his way back through the pack, and is now leading the race with a very commanding advantage. He really has saved the best until last here, has Lee Harrison. What a great start to the season it will be for the Offenders drivers. Just a few more corners to go then here for him. And as I said, what a great race it has been. 22 laps. Started from pole, had to find his way back through the pack, and is now leading, coming through into the final series of corners. Lee Harrison comes round and over the timing line to take the first victory of the season then in the Hyper Brazilian Tourismo Mestres. Lee Harrison is the race winner ahead of Austin Ogonowski, the Canadian driver, finishing in second position. A very well-deserved podium for the Canadian driver. James Price-Harper does come home in third position then on the final lap. So somebody's had a bit of strife. Is that Franklin Stegging there, who looks like he must have had some drama because he was sitting pretty in P3. Indeed he has, and he's come down over in about P6 or P7 at the checkered flag. So something...
We'll have to see what happened there.
Yeah, something must have happened to him. Either way, that is a very disappointing end. Here we go then, let's see. Oh no, it was into the final series of corners. There was contact with William Walker as well. So Stegging there making a hash of the penultimate corner, and well, it just goes to show that it's not over until the fat lady sings, or in this case, the checkered flag falls.
No, they're very unfortunate there that he was had to collect the back marker there, but there we go. Well done for Lee Harrison. He does tend to bookend his seasons really well, has strong starts and strong finishes. So we'll see if he can actually break that and have a more consistent run into future rounds. But for the moment, he takes the maximum points, 1.5 seconds ahead of Austin Ogonowski. James Price-Harper sneaks onto the podium there after I just said that he would be resigned to finish in, I think he was in 4th or 5th place at the time. Tom Bellingham inherits 4th, strong race there from the independent world driver, and Mike Bell has just rewards, I think, for his great comeback drive and finishing 5th.
Lee Harrison then, well, he's pretty happy with that first race. I mean, it's only the first race, but well, he seems to be pretty pleased with that. Can't go wrong there for Lee Harrison. What a great race it was. Didn't have it all his own way. Had to really, really dig deep in those mid stages, and one did wonder whether it was going to be a smooth end to that one, but he kept his calm, kept his nerve, and pulled it out of the bag right when it matters. The drivers then coming into the pit lane as we get ready for the second race. Not much time to breathe, of course. We've got a reverse grid for the second race as well. So whoever finished in 12th position is going to start on pole position then for race number 2. Another 22 lapper coming up for our drivers here at round 1 of the Hyper Brazilian Tourismo Mestres. Very much looking forward to seeing what is going to take place there. It should be nice, sunny, clear conditions for the drivers as they come back into the pit lane then. We'll get ready to get race number 2 underway for the Hyper Brazilian Tourismo Mestres as part of Realish Racing here very shortly indeed.